Hey everyone, I'm Almar of almarsguides.com, and I haven't done a Titan Quest video in a while. Recently I seen they put out a new expansion pack, Eternal Embers, so I figured I would come back to the game, make a few more build guides, play the game a little bit more, and see where it takes me. So, one of the first builds I've played since I came back to the game was a Magician. This is a Earth Mastery / Rogue combination, and it's one of those combinations that really takes a lot of gear and effort to get going. And once you get it going, it still isn't as good as other mastery combinations in the game. So that is a little bit disappointing. If you decide to go this build, you should just keep that in mind. It's going to require a lot of gear and a lot of energy potions to get the most out of this build that you can. With that said, I have beat the game with this build. However, some parts of the game I still struggled in quite a bit. Hades Palace, there were some parts of that which, you end up having to kite enemies around a lot, and there's always going to be some enemies here or there that you have to end up kiting enemies around quite a bit, and you struggle, more than other builds would. And I don't think that's because of my skill point distribution, although I'd never rule out the fact that I could possibly be the one that's sucking. I did a lot of Google research on this build before I actually, sat down, made this video, and actually sat down, made the build myself, and other people experienced the same things with this build. So I consider that the disclaimer. In games like these, you shouldn't expect every build to be, the overpowered build in the game. So just keep that in mind before playing this build. Anyway, let me start explaining the build, what abilities I got, why I got them, and then gear and all of that fun stuff. So, in the Earth tree, Earth Enchantment, this, as well as the other two passives that come with it, one of your main abilities, you're going to always want to run around with this buff on. Volatility, obviously almost any build that goes into Earth wants this because it just buffs your damage so significantly. Heat Shield, you want this for the plus 15% physical resist that comes with it. Summon Core Dweller, now this is one of the optional skills that some people might want to go with and might want to put points into, and other people may not. I like Summon Core Dweller because he's a nice tank for parts of the game that are somewhat difficult. And he's also somebody that helps dealing damage when I am kiting. So when I'm running around like a chicken with my head cut off because enemies are beating my face in, the Core Dweller has my back because he's punching the enemy in the back as the enemy punches me in the back. And that's what I like him for. He's the friend that's always there when you need him. So Ring of Flame. This is a lot better at lower levels, and it starts to fall off a lot the more you go up in level. The passive, Soften Metal, though, I'm actually quite fond of this because it reduces enemies' armor, which causes them to take more damage, and it also reduces their offensive ability, which causes them to deal less damage. And for that reason, I like the Soften Metal passive. So, Volcanic Orb. This is going to be one of your two earth damaging abilities. This one I only use when I'm fighting a boss or like a high-level enemy that is moving around a lot and that, isn't dying quickly. Eruption, this is going to be your main fire damaging ability. Usually, I use Eruption every fight, no matter what. I only use Volcanic Orb when I am fighting a physical immune mob, however. Or a mob with high physical resistances. And the reason for that, I'll explain in a little bit. But Eruption is basically, you just throw it down on the ground. Here's Eruption, and it does, I think 5 ticks of that, and Volcanic Orb is kind of the same. You just chuck it at the ground, and then it explodes like that. Now, one thing worth mentioning, Eruption has a semi-long cooldown, which is the whole reason that we bought Volcanic Orb. Volcanic Orb is our spammable fire ability, which is what we want it for. Eruption is our highest damage fire ability, which is what we want it for. Now, in the Earth tree, the only other ability that is worth mentioning here is Fire Nova. This is actually an optional ability. Sometimes I'd actually recommend you get it. Sometimes I wouldn't recommend it. Depends on your play style. If you have the extra skill points, then it's not a bad choice at all. So moving over to our Rogue tree. Calculated Strike. This is going to be your left click. This is going to be your main single target damaging ability. And you'll be using it for most of the game. Blade honing, this is one of the somewhat optional abilities. Up to you if you would actually like to get it. I do recommend you get it, and I personally got it. It's just another buff that you use at basically all times that increases your damage. Open wound, this is a passive which will increase your damage. It basically just increases the chance of causing bleeding damage when you attack with a sharp or pointed weapon. Anatomy increases your bleeding damage. So 2 good passives that are worth getting. Throwing knives, this is the bread and butter ability of this build. Both throwing knives and flurry knives. You definitely want to get both of these and max both of them out. And then as far as what else you get in the rogue tree, Envenom weapon. You want to put points into Envenom weapon as well as the passives. I think this passive right here, Mandrake, I think this is the best passive you can get for Envenom weapon. And the reason for that is it has a chance of confusing enemies, which causes them to like flee away from you, reducing the damage you take. And it also causes them to fumble attacks, which will reduce their overall damage. As far as other trees in the other abilities in the rogue tree, I personally recommend you skip late traps. Disarm traps, you can get it if you want. If you have the extra skill points, it's a good passive. Even just throwing 1 point into that, it would be good because then plus skills will take over for the rest. I don't recommend flash powder. I don't recommend poison gas bomb, and I'm saying I don't recommend them despite the fact that I haven't personally tested them out a lot with this build. For all I know, flash powder may actually be somewhat decent. Poison gas bomb probably won't be that decent though because we're not built around it. But flash powder may be. And blade barrier, this is one of the optional abilities in Rogue Tree that I know some people are fond of. And if you want to try it out, experiment with it, that might be a better alternative than Fire Nova. And last but not least, Lethal Strike and the passive that comes with it. You can skip it because that's more for like a melee character. But that's really all as far as our skills go. Now moving on to the gear. So as far as gear goes, you want energy. You want items that you want an item like this. See, it has minus energy cost on it, which is phenomenal, and it also has energy regeneration, percentage-based energy regeneration. Items like this are exceptionally good for this build. My Band of Souls I have because I needed the Vitality Resist. Really, that's the only reason that, and maybe Energy Leech and the Energy Regen that comes with it. Both of them are good too. Chakram of the Sun, I'm using this because it's very good with Earth attacks. And it also it's very good for Earth Mastery, I should say. Gives flat percentage-based fire damage, burn damage. It also gives minus recharge, which reduces the cooldown of some of the abilities that I have, or all of the abilities I have, rather, and plus skills, which is very useful. I got Apollo's Will right here, which is just kind of, I use it mostly for the Pierce res, the Poison res, and the flat 90% Pierce damage is nice for this build, but not all of our damage is Pierce damage, only a small amount of it is, so it's not the best for the build. Could be better. This shield I use mostly for the Pierce resistance. It also comes with the nice flat percentage physical damage buff, flat percentage Pierce damage buff. Tunic of the Magi, I use this almost entirely for the resistances that come on it. It also comes with a flat percentage damage buff. It also comes with a flat percentage energy regeneration, which I like. Stonebinder's Cuffs, I use this for the plus to all skills. I also use it because I got lucky enough for this character. I got Stonebinder's Cuffs with that have all energy rolls on them. So I couldn't have gotten something better, honestly. And the relic that I use on this, I specifically chose that relic because it gives flat percentage increases to both energy and health, which I think are very beneficial for this build. For the necklace, I chose this because of the energy regeneration. For really, that's real, and it also goes with the crown. So I got a twofer out of it, which you can choose a different necklace if you want, as so long as you have the energy regeneration to keep up with your character's energy consumption, you'll be fine. That is the most important thing as far as gear goes. You want gear with energy regeneration, energy either the, see how this one says 4.0 energy regeneration per second, or 108% energy regeneration. Either or works. Doesn't matter. Just get one. Or try to get one of the two. If you can get a piece of gear with both, even better. If you can get gear with plus energy on it, that's good too. Anything that helps out energy. Aside from energy, plus skills, and aside from plus skills, resistances. That's really all you're going to be doing for this class. And then of course my boots, they have some energy regen on them. They also have plus fire damage, plus burn damage, and other goodies like that. And then my relic is just or my artifact rather, is just Talisman of the Jade Emperor. Mostly got this for the elemental resistances that come with it. And that is my gear. As you can see, my resists are pretty good. My secondary resists, or my secondary tab, if you want to take a look at that, it's right here. So as far as my stat distribution goes, strength, intelligence, and dexterity, you're going to be putting points into all of them. You need enough strength to use a good throwing weapon and a good shield. Usually around 400 works. You need enough intelligence to wear your caster gear, and you need enough dexterity to wear your caster gear. What I like to do is I like to aim for Stonebinder's cuffs. So that needs 425 dexterity. So that sets a nice limit of how much dexterity you're going to need. About 425. As far as intelligence goes, probably about 400. You can see some of my gear here requires about 400 intelligence to wear. This one requires 500 intelligence to wear, which is insane. But still, it's a pretty good piece of gear. So that's about how much intelligence you'll need. And aside from putting points in the strength, intelligence, and dexterity to wear gear, you'll want to put them into energy too, because you need energy. You need a lot of energy. And if you're wondering, I know I get this question tons on all of my videos. When I'm leveling up, what stat point distribution should I do for this class? You just put them into whatever you need to wear gear. If you find a piece of gear that needs more dexterity, then you put the points into dexterity. If you find a piece of gear that requires more strength, then you put the points into strength. That is really all you do for this class. It's really, really basic, simple, easy, and straightforward. So, let's show you actual combat. So here's some enemies, and what I do for this build is I enter combat. As you can see here, the enemies have their own fire attacks, so they're kind of blocking my line of sight. I drop Eruption right on top of me, and then I start spamming Flurry of Knives, and they apparently have some strong AoEs. So, like I said, Eruption on top of myself, and then, well, it's only a single target, so I'll spam Calculator's Drag. Flurry of Knives is going to be your main DPS for this build. And it's also kind of the main ability that's going to help you reduce your incoming damage too, because when enemies get hit with Flurry of Knives, they have a chance of being confused, and that will cause them to like run away from you while you deal damage to them, thus reducing the incoming damage sustained. This area is a little easy, and let me teleport to, let's say, outer Atlantis. We'll go to a hard area in Atlantis, and then I'll probably die and embarrass myself. But it is what it is. I thought that area was going to be a little bit harder. I misremembered where I was. So. Yes, the frogmen. These are one of the enemies that come to mind when I say there's going to be some parts of the game that you struggle with. These little frogmen, because they hit hard as, well, hard is something that hits very, very hard. How's that? But as you can see, the Summon Core Dweller, he does a pretty good job of taking some hits. So he's not entirely useless. As previously stated, Calculated Strike is what you'll be using, single target. Flurry of Knives is what you'll be unleashing when you encounter packs of enemies. And I always drop Eruption in front of myself. And then I just basically spam Flurry of Knives on the enemies that approach me. And I guess I should say I was able to complete the game with this build, not with this character. It just occurred to me because I, in case anybody posted in the comments that I didn't have Act 5 unlocked via the portals. I find that it's better to not make a video with a level like 81 to 85 character because that's not what everybody's capable of doing.
You found a second art.
Or rather, not everybody's going to be that level when they need like build advice. People are usually, you know, this is a lot better of a level to give build advice at because I don't have all of the skill points that I would have available to me. So it's a little bit more accurate for you know, the wider audience. I guess is the best way to describe it. And as you can see, it is pretty, it's pretty straightforward, this build. Most of the abilities you have to use are buffs. And as you can see, I'm not really a like paper cannon or a glass cannon is the correct word. I do take a lot of damage, but I'm not super squishy, which I tend to like as far as my builds go. But like I said before, this build is not going to be as good as some other builds that you can get. Like Harbinger, Haruspex, Conqueror, they're all going to trump this build far and wide. This build is a one that you really have to put effort in to make it work. You really need good gear. Anyway, that's really all there is to it. The only thing that I really haven't showed you is Volcanic Orb, but I don't use Volcanic Orb all the time anyway. I only use Volcanic Orb when I am fighting an enemy that I need to basically spam fire attacks on, because Volcanic Orb is a spammable. That's really the only time I'll use Volcanic Orb. Or sometimes I use Volcanic Orb too when I'm kiting, because Volcanic Orb has a stun built into it, and I find that somewhat helpful because it'll momentarily lock down enemies while I'm kiting. But those are really the only times that I end up, or rather I find myself using Volcanic Orb. Aside from that though, I hope this video helped some of you guys out with this build. If this video did help you out, be sure to leave me a like because that helps me out. And aside from that, I will see you guys around in future Titan Quest videos. I do plan to make more since Eternal Embers just came out like 2 weeks ago. And yeah, I'll see you guys around in all of those future build videos. Peace.